Elara knew the moon, not like one knows a distant relative, or a story heard many times, but like one knows the beat of their own heart, or the whisper of their dearest friend. From the moment she was born in Silverwood Dell, nestled deep within the whispering forests of the Athelwood, the moon had been a constant, luminous presence in her life. It hung in the ink-washed sky like a pearl in a raven's wing, a silent guardian, a giver of dreams, a weaver of magic. In Silverwood Dell, the moon was not merely a light in the darkness, it was the very breath of their world. Its cycles dictated the rhythm of life. The planting of the glowroot, which pulsed with soft internal light to illuminate their homes, was always done under the waxing crescent. The harvesting of the dreamberries, iridescent and sweet, only happened during the full moon, when their magic was ripe enough to grant visions of forgotten joys. Even the patterns woven into their clothes, the songs sung by the hearth-keepers, and the gentle, humming warmth of their homes, all resonated with the lunar tides. Elara's own house, built from pale, smooth moon birch and roofed with shimmering star slate, always felt cool and serene, even on the warmest summer nights. Vines of silver bloom, their petals unfurling only after sunset, climbed the walls, their delicate fragrance filling her window with a scent like chilled honey and dew. From her bed, tucked beneath a quilt woven with threads spun from spider silk and infused with starlight, Elara could see the sky. It was a canvas she never tired of watching, especially when the moon was high. She was 10 summers old, with hair the color of warm ginger ale, and eyes the deep, mossy green of the forest floor after a spring rain. But it was her spirit that truly shone, curious and bright, like the moon itself. Elara spent her days exploring the edges of the dell, collecting fallen star leaves that sparkled faintly in the shade, or listening to the ancient trees whisper their secrets in the breeze. But her favorite time was always night. Unlike other children, who often grew sleepy once the sun dipped below the horizon, Elara felt a different kind of energy stir within her, as dusk painted the sky in shades of amethyst and rose. It was as if the world, preparing for its nocturnal ballet, called to her soul. She would often slip from her bed, wrapping herself in a soft wool shawl, and sit by her window, watching the celestial dance unfold. Her grandmother, Lyra, a woman whose eyes held the wisdom of 1,000 full moons, and whose hands could coax even the shyest moon moths from their cocoons, understood Elara's nocturnal inclinations. "You little moon sprite," Lyra would often say, her voice soft as rustling leaves. "You were born with a piece of the night sky in your heart." And Elara felt it. She felt the moon's presence not just as light, but as a gentle hum beneath her skin, a quiet song in her bones. When the moon was full, she could almost hear the stories it told to the silent trees, the dreams it whispered to sleeping creatures. When it was a slender crescent, she felt a surge of hopeful energy, a sense of new beginnings. And when it was the dark moon, hidden from view, she felt a profound stillness, a time for introspection and rest. One particular evening, as the sun dipped its last fiery brushstroke across the western sky, Elara felt a familiar tremor of anticipation. Tonight was the night of the Whispering Moon, a cherished festival in Silverwood Dell. On this night, the moon, usually a brilliant silver, was said to glow with a faint ethereal blue, and its light carried the echoes of ancient blessings. Families would gather in the central clearing, sharing mooncakes dusted with powdered stardust, and children would tie ribbons of hope to the branches of the great elder tree, its bark smooth and silvered by centuries of moonlight. Elara helped her mother, Anya, prepare their contribution. Little tarts filled with crushed dreamberries and a hint of crystallized moondew, which shimmered like captured moonlight. The air in their home was sweet with baking and the murmur of happy conversation. Her father, Kale, a quiet man who could mend anything from a broken hearth to a weary spirit, was polishing the family's old moon lantern, a delicate contraption of polished bronze and faceted crystal that amplified the moon's glow. As the first star pricked the darkening sky, a gentle excitement rippled through Elara. She could feel the moon beginning its ascent, a familiar thrumming in her chest. She hurried to her window, eager to catch the first glimpse of its celestial beauty. But as the world softened into twilight, and the first sliver of the moon peeked over the highest peaks of the Athelwood, Elara paused. She tilted her head, a frown creasing her brow. Something was different. The moon was there, undeniable, a pale curve against the deepening indigo. But it wasn't glowing with the usual silver warmth, and the subtle, almost imperceptible blue shimmer that characterized the whispering moon was absent. Instead, it seemed fainter, more distant, as if a veil of fine mist had been drawn across its face, dulling its customary brilliance. Elara blinked, rubbing her eyes. Perhaps it was just the twilight playing tricks. She waited, watching as more of the moon revealed itself, slowly climbing higher into the sky. But the dullness persisted. The light that spilled into her room, usually a clear, cool silver, was now a muted, almost ghostly gray. It lacked the vibrancy, the living pulse she had always known. A shiver, not of cold but of unease, traced its way down her spine. The hum in her bones, usually a gentle song, felt faint, almost like a forgotten melody. She waited until the moon was fully visible, a slender crescent, high above the trees. It was undeniably beautiful, still, but it was a beauty that felt muted, a whisper rather than a song. The blue glow of the whispering moon was simply not there. "Mother," Elara called, her voice a little small. Anya emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. "Yes, little one. Are you ready to go? Father's almost finished with the lantern." "The moon," Elara said, pointing a trembling finger towards the window. "It's different, isn't it? It's not blue, and it's so pale." Anya glanced out the window, a smile on her lips. "Oh, Elara, it's still early. The blue will come. It always does. It's just beginning its ascent. Give it time to gather its breath." She patted Elara's shoulder reassuringly. "Now, come, help me carry these tarts." Elara didn't argue, but a knot of disquiet tightened in her stomach. She knew the moon. She knew its phases, its colors, its moods. And this was not right. The blue glow of the whispering moon always began to manifest as soon as it cleared the horizon, growing steadily more vibrant as it climbed. Tonight, there was nothing but that unsettling gray pallor. As they walked towards the central clearing, moon lanterns swinging gently in the hands of other villagers, Elara kept her gaze fixed on the sky. The moon continued its steady climb, but its light remained weak, diffused. The familiar, joyous excitement that usually swelled within her on such nights was replaced by a growing sense of worry. In the clearing, the great elder tree stood tall and majestic, its ancient branches reaching towards the heavens. Usually, under the whispering moon, its silvered leaves would shimmer with an almost liquid blue, and the ribbons tied to its branches would glow with soft inner light. But tonight, the leaves were merely pale, and the ribbons were dull, like forgotten pieces of cloth. Families gathered, sharing food and laughter, but Elara noticed a subtle difference in the atmosphere. The usual effervescence, the bright, sparkling energy of the whispering moon, seemed subdued. People still smiled, still chatted, but the joy felt quieter, less resonant. Elara watched her father light their moon lantern. Normally, the lantern would amplify the moon's inherent magic, casting intricate patterns of light and shadow, and the crystals would hum with a soft, melodic tone. Tonight, the light was weak, barely brighter than a regular lamp, and the crystals remained silent. Kale frowned, tapping the side of the lantern, as if checking for a fault. He looked up at the sky, a slight crease between his brows, before shrugging and joining a circle of men by a small bonfire. Elara drifted away from her family, drawn towards the edge of the clearing where her grandmother Lyra sat on a mossy stone, her silver hair catching what little light there was. Lyra was humming a soft, ancient tune, her fingers tracing patterns on the smooth surface of a polished moonstone she held in her palm. The stone, usually radiating a gentle internal glow, was dark tonight. "Grandmother," Elara whispered, sitting beside her. Lyra's eyes, the color of twilight, met hers. There was a knowing look in their depths, a recognition of the worry Elara carried. "Yes, little moon sprite, you feel it too, don't you?" Elara nodded, her throat tight. "The moon, it's not right, it's not blue, it's so dim." Lyra sighed, a sound like dry leaves rustling. She looked up at the sky, her gaze lingering on the pale crescent. "Indeed, child, the whispering moon is silent tonight." "Why?" Elara asked, her voice barely audible. "Has it ever happened before?" Lyra's fingers continued to stroke the dark moonstone. "In the old tales, yes, long, long ago, before even the great elder tree was a sapling. The stories speak of times when the moon turned its face away, or when its light grew faint." "Why would it do that?" "The moon, Elara, is a living heart in the sky. It has feelings just like us. It can be joyful, sorrowful, weary, even angry. And when its spirit is troubled, its light reflects that trouble." Elara stared at the sky, a profound sense of sadness washing over her. The moon troubled? What could trouble the magnificent, unchanging moon? "Is it sick?" she asked, the word feeling too small for something so grand. Lyra smiled sadly. "Perhaps, or perhaps it is simply lost. The old tales say that when the moon's light grows faint, it is often because a piece of its essence, a fragment of its magic or its memories, has become lost to it. And without that essence, it cannot glow with its full potential." "Lost?" Elara breathed. "But how could a piece of the moon get lost?" "The world is vast, little one," Lyra replied, her voice growing softer, almost a murmur. "And magic is a wild and unpredictable thing. Sometimes, the moon grants a shard of its light, a spark of its power, to a place or a creature in the world below, for a special purpose. But if that shard is forgotten, or misused, or simply wanders too far from its source, the moon itself can feel its absence. It's like a song that has lost a vital note, or a story that has forgotten a crucial word." Elara's mind raced. "So, if we found this lost piece, would the moon glow brightly again? Would the whispering moon sing its blue song?" Lyra looked at her, her eyes twinkling with a faint, hopeful light. "The tales say so, yes. They speak of certain individuals, blessed with a deep connection to the moon, who could follow its fading light and retrieve what was lost. They were called moon seekers." Elara felt a strange stir within her, a familiar pull, but stronger now, more urgent. It was the same feeling she got when a new mystery presented itself, but this was different. This felt like a calling. "How would they find it?" she asked, her voice filled with a nascent determination. "The moon, even when dim, still leaves a trail," Lyra said, gesturing towards the sky. "A thread of light, a whisper of its essence, a forgotten dream. Only those with a true moon heart can perceive it." She then looked at Elara, a knowing warmth in her gaze. "You, little one, have a moon heart. You always have." Elara felt a thrill, a mix of fear and excitement. She had always felt a special kinship with the moon, but to be considered a moon seeker, the idea was both daunting and exhilarating. "But where would I look?" Elara asked, her voice thick with wonder. "The world is so big, grandmother." Lyra reached into the small pouch at her waist and pulled out a delicate silver compass. It wasn't like the compasses Kale used for navigating the forest, which pointed to the magnetic north. This one had no needle. Instead, its polished silver face was engraved with intricate lunar symbols, and in its center, a tiny, perfectly formed crystal sphere shimmered. "This is a moon compass," Lyra explained, placing it gently in Elara's palm. It was cool and smooth to the touch, and Elara felt a faint thrumming from the crystal. "It doesn't point north. It points to the deepest concentration of the moon's essence. If a fragment of the moon has indeed been lost, and it still holds a spark of life, this compass will lead you to it." Elara gazed at the compass, her heart pounding. The crystal sphere in its center remained still, reflecting only the dim light of the moon above. "It's not moving," she whispered, a flicker of disappointment. "Patience, child," Lyra said. "The moon's essence is subtle. It will only stir the compass when you are close, or when you are truly ready to heed its call. For now, you must listen to your dreams. The moon speaks most clearly to those with moon hearts through their sleep." Elara spent the rest of the night of the whispering moon in a haze of contemplation. The subdued festival, the quiet villagers, the silent moon, all contributed to her sense of urgency. She kept the moon compass hidden beneath her shawl, feeling its cool weight against her skin. When she finally returned home, her family was already asleep. She slipped into her bed, but sleep wouldn't come easily. Her mind whirled with Lyra's words, with the image of the pale, distant moon, and the heavy, hopeful presence of the moon compass. She closed her eyes, trying to clear her thoughts, to listen for the moon's whisper in the quiet of her room. She tried to imagine its light, its warmth, its blue song. But all she could sense was the lingering dullness, the absence. Eventually, exhaustion claimed her, and she drifted into sleep. Her dreams that night were unlike any she had experienced before. They were not the usual vivid, playful escapades through sun-dappled glades or flights on the backs of friendly forest birds. This dream was a panorama of shades of gray. She found herself standing in a vast empty landscape, bathed in a dim, ghostly light. The ground was cracked and dry, and the sky above was a swirling vortex of pale clouds through which a faint, struggling moon peered down. In the distance, she saw a flicker, a tiny, almost imperceptible spark of light. It pulsed weakly, like a dying ember. Drawn by an invisible force, Ilara began to walk towards it. The journey felt endless, across barren plains, through skeletal forests where trees writhed like ancient, sorrowful dancers. The air was cold, and a profound sadness enveloped her. As she drew closer, the spark grew slightly, revealing itself to be a fragment of something beautiful. It was a shard of pure ethereal blue light, pulsing softly, struggling against the encroaching gray. It looked like a piece of polished sky, chipped from the heavens themselves. And as she reached out to touch it, a voice, ancient and soft as a sigh, echoed through the dreamscape. Lost, forgotten, fading. Ilara woke with a gasp, her heart hammering in her chest. The first light of dawn was just beginning to paint the eastern sky, in faint hues of peach and lavender. The dream was still vivid, the feeling of sadness and urgency clinging to her. She sat up, her eyes immediately going to the moon compass, which she had placed on her bedside table. As she looked at it, the tiny crystal sphere in its center seemed to shimmer, and then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, it began to move. Not spinning wildly, but settling, pointing with a gentle, insistent pull. It pointed towards her window, towards the eastern horizon, where the sun was now beginning its daily ascent. But Ilara knew. It wasn't pointing towards the sun. It was pointing beyond the horizon, towards something distant, something that lay waiting in the world beyond Silverwood Dell. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. The moon, even when dim, still leaves a trail, a thread of light. Ilara knew what she had to do. The dream, the compass, the silent moon, they were all telling her the same thing. The moon was indeed troubled, and a piece of its essence was lost. And she, Ilara, the girl with the moon heart, was meant to find it. She carefully picked up the moon compass, its cool weight a comforting presence in her hand. She looked out her window, at the distant, mist-shrouded mountains that marked the edge of the Athelwood. Beyond them lay the unknown, a world she had only glimpsed in stories and whispers. A shiver of fear, quickly replaced by a surge of resolve, ran through her. She was scared, yes, but more than that, she felt a profound sense of purpose. The moon, her dearest friend, her silent guardian, was calling to her. And Ilara would answer. She had to. The soft moonlight, her constant companion, streamed through her window, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. Ilara moved with a quiet determination, her heart thrumming like a hummingbird's wings. She pulled on her sturdy boots, laced tightly, and a cloak woven from the dark, durable wool of Highland sheep, a gift from her grandmother long ago, meant for colder climes than their valley usually saw. Into a small, worn leather satchel, she packed a few dried berries, a chunk of hard bread, a water skin, and a small flint and steel, just in case. The moonstone, still warm from her palm, nestled deep within a hidden pocket, its cool weight a comforting presence against her side. One last glance around her small, beloved cottage. The flickering hearth, long since banked for the night, the carved wooden table where she ate her meals, the shelf laden with stories and remedies. A pang of longing tightened her chest, a whisper of doubt. But then, the moonstone pulsed faintly, a gentle throb that resonated deep within her, and the doubt receded. The call was too strong, too clear to ignore. She slipped out the door, pulling it shut with a soft click that echoed loudly in the stillness of the night. The air was crisp, scented with pine and damp earth. Overhead, the moon, a silver galleon sailing across the velvet sea of the sky, seemed to shine with a particular brilliance, casting long, dancing shadows of the trees that skirted her small meadow. The Ethelwood. Even its name was ancient, whispered by her ancestors for generations. It wasn't merely a forest. It was a living, breathing entity, a heartwood of old magic that bordered her valley. Most people only ventured into its fringes for firewood or herbs, never daring to go deeper than the first few winding paths. Legends spoke of lost travelers, of strange lights and singing trees, of creatures born of moonlight and shadow. Elara had always been drawn to these tales, but now she was stepping into them. The transition was immediate and profound. The familiar, comforting sounds of her meadow, the chirping crickets, the rustling leaves, faded, replaced by the deeper, more resonant hum of the Ethelwood. The trees here were older, their trunks gnarled and thick, their branches interwoven so tightly that they formed a vaulted ceiling, dappled only by slivers of moonlight. The ground beneath her feet was a thick carpet of moss and fallen leaves, muffling her every step. The moonstone in her pocket began to glow, a soft, internal luminescence that warmed her hand even through the leather of her satchel. It wasn't a beacon, not a bright lamp, but a subtle guiding light, like a pulse of intuition. It seemed to draw her deeper, not along any discernible path, but through the shifting patterns of the trees, past ancient, silent stones encrusted with glowing lichen. The Ethelwood at night was a symphony of whispers. The wind sighed through the upper canopy, sounding like ancient voices murmuring forgotten secrets. The rustle of unseen creatures in the undergrowth, the distant hoot of an owl, the drip of dew from a giant fern, each sound added to the tapestry of the forest, weaving a spell around Elara. She felt small, a mere speck in this vast, timeless place, but not afraid. A sense of belonging, a strange recognition, settled over her. It was as if the forest itself had been waiting for her. Hours passed, marked only by the shifting position of the moon above and the steady, rhythmic pace of her steps. Her feet grew tired, but her spirit remained invigorated, fueled by the magic humming around her. She navigated by the moonstone's faint pull, which seemed to guide her through what would otherwise have been an impenetrable labyrinth of roots and fallen logs. Then, as the sky began to lighten, a soft, ethereal glow appeared through the trees ahead. It was not the pale light of dawn, but something far more magical, pulsing with a gentle silver hue. Drawn by its allure, Elara pushed through a curtain of shimmering spiderwebs, each strand catching the mysterious light like spun moonlight, and stepped into a hidden clearing. Before her stood a circle of ancient willow trees, their branches weeping like long silvery hair towards the ground. But these were no ordinary willows. Their bark shimmered with a faint, internal light, and their leaves, instead of green, were a delicate, translucent silver. As Elara approached, a soft, melodic hum emanated from them, a sound that resonated in her very bones. These were the whispering willows, spoken of in the oldest tales, said to hold the memories of the Ethelwood within their roots. As she stepped into the circle, the humming intensified, and a cool, gentle breeze stirred the silvery leaves, making them dance and sway as if in greeting. One of the closest willows, its trunk wider than 3 men, dipped a slender branch towards her. A single pearly tear, glowing with the same internal light, slowly formed at the tip of a leaf, then detached and floated gracefully to rest on her outstretched palm. The tear was cool and smooth, like polished moonlight. As it touched her skin, a wave of images, fleeting and dreamlike, washed over her mind. She saw a flash of a distant mountain peak, impossibly high, crowned with a strange crystalline structure. Then, a vision of the moon closer than she had ever seen it, pulsating with a profound energy, sending out tendrils of light that reached for something hidden. Finally, a momentary glimpse of a girl, cloaked and shadowed, standing at the edge of a great chasm, her hand outstretched towards a shimmering portal. The images vanished as quickly as they came, leaving behind a lingering sense of urgency and a deeper understanding of the moon's call. The moonstone in her pocket pulsed in harmony with the willow tear, affirming the visions. Elara carefully cupped the tear in her hand, feeling its gentle warmth now. It didn't melt or fade, but pulsed softly, like a tiny captured star. This was a gift, a sign. She bowed her head to the whispering willows, a gesture of profound respect, and placed the tear gem gently into her satchel, beside the moonstone. As the true dawn began to paint the eastern sky in hues of rose and gold, the silver glow of the willows softened, and their humming subsided into a contented murmur. Elara knew she couldn't risk traveling too far in daylight. Not yet, not until she understood more of the Ethelwood's ways. She found a secluded nook beneath the roots of an enormous oak, its branches thick with emerald moss, and settled down to rest. She ate a small portion of her dried berries and bread, sipping water from her water skin. Despite the strangeness of her journey, she felt a profound sense of peace. The Ethelwood, rather than being menacing, seemed to be embracing her, guiding her. She slept fitfully, dreaming of moonlit paths and whispering trees, waking only when the sun was high above, filtering through the dense canopy and shifting patterns of light and shadow. The forest in daylight was different. The magical hum was still there, but muted, replaced by the vibrant sounds of nature. Bird song, the rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze, the buzz of unseen insects. The air was warmer, alive with the scent of damp earth and blooming wildflowers. Elara resumed her journey, moving more cautiously now. The moonstone, though not glowing as brightly, still offered a subtle directional pull, like an invisible thread tugging her onward. She learned to read the forest floor, to recognize the tracks of small creatures, to distinguish between edible berries and poisonous ones. She saw a shimmer of iridescent wings darting between ferns, the fleeting glimpse of a creature with eyes like polished obsidian watching her from the shadows. She spoke softly to the trees, a habit she'd picked up from her grandmother, offering quiet thanks for their shelter and guidance. As the afternoon wore on, the air grew cooler, and the trees began to change. They grew taller, their branches reaching towards the sky like skeletal fingers, and their leaves took on a darker, almost violet hue. The moss on their trunks grew thicker, glowing faintly with a phosphorescent light that became more apparent as twilight deepened. The moonstone's pulse grew stronger, leading her through a dense thicket of these shadowy trees until she emerged onto the shore of a vast, still lake. This was no ordinary lake. Its surface, perfectly calm, reflected the deepening twilight sky with an astonishing clarity, a mirror image of the first stars beginning to prick through the heavens. And from its depths, a soft, otherworldly luminescence emanated, causing the water to glow with a deep, sapphire light. The entire shore was lined with delicate, bell-shaped flowers that shimmered with a similar internal light, their petals unfurling under the nascent moonlight. These were the moon petals, legendary for blooming only under the direct gaze of the moon, and said to possess powerful, if subtle, magic. As Elara approached the water's edge, a ripple disturbed the glassy surface, and a figure emerged from the depths. It was a creature of breathtaking beauty, composed entirely of shimmering water, its form fluid and constantly shifting, yet undeniably humanoid. Its eyes were like pools of liquid moonlight, and its hair, if one could call it that, flowed like a cascade of silver foam. A nixie, she realized, a spirit of the water, a guardian of these luminous depths. The nixie glided silently towards her, stopping just a few feet away, its watery body reflecting the moon petals and the nascent stars. Its voice, when it spoke, was like the gentle murmur of a stream over smooth stones, melodic and haunting. "You carry the moon's light, little traveler. You are drawn by its call. What quest brings you to the luminous lake?" Elara, though startled, felt no fear. The nixie's presence was ancient and powerful, but also imbued with a profound serenity. "I am Elara," she replied, her voice soft but steady. "The moon calls to me, and I must answer. I seek the mountains beyond the Ethelwood to understand the moon's purpose." The nixie tilted its shimmering head, its liquid eyes studying her intently. "The mountains are a perilous climb, filled with forgotten paths and shadowed guardians. The moon's purpose is not easily revealed, nor its gifts easily earned. Many have sought its secrets, few have found them, and fewer still have returned unchanged." "I understand," Elara said, her gaze unwavering. "But I must try. The call is too strong to ignore." A faint smile, like sunlight on water, touched the nixie's lips. "Your resolve is a rare thing, Elara, and your heart is pure. The moon has chosen wisely." With a graceful gesture, the nixie extended a hand, and from its palm, a single perfectly formed pearl, glowing with the same sapphire light as the lake, floated towards Elara. "Take this, moon pearl. It will guide you when the path is darkest, and reveal what is hidden from mortal eyes, but use its power sparingly, for magic, like water, can be both life-giving and overwhelming. Elara accepted the moon pearl, its surface cool and smooth against her skin, pulsing with a gentle rhythm. "Thank you," she whispered, genuinely moved by the unexpected gift. "I will use it with care." The Nixie nodded, its form beginning to swirl and dissipate. "The mountains await, but beware, Elara. Not all who dwell between here and there are as benevolent as the Athelwood's older spirits. There are shadows that creep where the moon's light struggles to reach." With a final shimmering ripple, the Nixie sank back into the luminous depths, leaving only the gentle lapping of water against the shore. Elara stood for a long moment, clutching the moon pearl, the words of the Nixie echoing in her mind. Shadows that creep. She looked towards the distant, dark silhouettes of the mountains, which now seemed even more formidable. But the moon pearl in her hand and the moonstone in her satchel pulsed with a combined energy that bolstered her courage. She spent the rest of the night by the luminous lake, resting and gathering her strength, eating the last of her bread. The moon petals around her glowed, illuminating the shore with a soft, comforting light, and the moon, now high above, seemed to pour its silver essence directly into the lake, making the water shimmer and dance. As the first hint of dawn touched the sky, Elara rose, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. She had traversed the heart of the Athelwood, faced its ancient magic, and been gifted with its blessings. But the true journey, the Nixie had warned, lay ahead. The path from the luminous lake led her away from the deeper forest, towards a region where the trees grew sparser, giving way to rocky outcrops and winding, narrow passes. This section of the Athelwood was different again, less vibrant, more austere. The moss was thinner, the air colder, and the ground was strewn with loose stones, making each step a careful calculation. This, she surmised, was the Shadowed Pass, the transition zone between the ancient forest and the stark, stony embrace of the mountains. The trees here were gnarled and twisted, their branches bare in places, resembling clutching claws against the pale sky. No cheerful bird song here, only the mournful sigh of the wind through the crags. The moonstone continued its steady pull, but the path was no longer clear. It fragmented into countless smaller trails, some leading to sheer drops, others disappearing into dense thickets of thorny bushes. Doubt, a cold tendril, began to snake its way into Elara's heart. Had she made a mistake? Was she truly capable of navigating this treacherous land? The Nixie's warning about shadows that creep resonated with a new, unsettling clarity. She consulted the moonstone, holding it in her hand, but its guidance here was less precise, more like a general direction than a clear path. She remembered the moon pearl. Taking it from her satchel, she held it alongside the moonstone. Both gifts pulsed, and then, slowly, the moon pearl began to emit faint, shimmering lines of sapphire light. These lines didn't point to a single path, but rather outlined the absence of danger, highlighting the safe routes through the maze of paths and thorny thickets. It was as if she were seeing the hidden flow of energy, the natural currents of the land. Using the moon pearl's subtle illumination, Elara navigated the treacherous terrain. She found hidden steps carved into the rock face, ancient and weathered, almost invisible to the naked eye. She bypassed tangled webs of thorny vines that seemed to shift and reform to block her way, guided by the pearl's light which showed her the brief moments when the thorns receded, creating an opening. As she moved deeper into the shadowed pass, the air grew colder, and a thin mist began to descend, clinging to the rocks and making the already indistinct paths even more challenging. The silence here was profound, broken only by the crunch of her boots on stone and the ceaseless sigh of the wind. She felt watched, a prickling sensation on the back of her neck, but when she turned, there was only the shifting mist and the gnarled trees. The moonstone and moonpearl intensified their glow, guiding her through the thickening fog. At one point, she found herself at the edge of a narrow chasm, its depths obscured by the mist. The path clearly ended here, but the moonpearl pulsed, indicating a way forward. She looked closely, and saw it, a single, slender arch of rock, almost invisible against the backdrop of the fog, spanning the chasm. It looked impossibly fragile, but the pearl's light affirmed its solidity. Taking a deep breath, Elara stepped onto the natural bridge, her heart pounding, and carefully crossed the abyss. Just as the sun began its slow descent, painting the western sky in hues of fiery orange and deep violet, Elara emerged from the last of the gnarled trees. The air was thin and sharp, carrying the scent of rock and ice. Before her, stretching upwards into the darkening sky, rose the colossal, mist-shrouded peaks of the mountains. They were even more immense up close, their jagged silhouettes piercing the clouds, their highest reaches already dusted with snow that glittered faintly in the fading light. The Ethelwood was behind her now, a dark green blanket stretching to the horizon. She had made it. Her journey through the ancient forest had tested her courage, enriched her spirit, and confirmed her purpose. The moonstone in her hand, now glowing with a steady, strong light, pulsed in harmony with the distant rising moon, which was just beginning to peek over the highest peak, casting a silver gleam on the highest, most mysterious summit. There, on that highest peak, just beneath the emerging moon, Elara saw it. A faint, almost imperceptible shimmer, like heat rising from a distant fire, but too perfectly formed to be natural. It was the crystalline structure she had glimpsed in the Whispering Willow's vision. It called to her, a silent, powerful summons that resonated deep within her soul. She had reached the foothills. The Ethelwood had guided her, protected her, and gifted her. But the true climb, the true challenge, was yet to come. Elara looked up at the towering mountains, a mixture of awe and trepidation filling her. She was tired, yes, but also filled with a profound sense of anticipation. The moon was waiting. And Elara, armed with courage, compassion, and the gifts of the Ethelwood, was ready to answer. The air grew thinner with every upward step, carrying a crisp, clean scent of stone and ancient ice. Gone were the verdant, moss-draped paths of the Ethelwood. Here, the ground was a rugged tapestry of granite and schist, interspersed with hardy, wind-stunted pines that clung precariously to the slopes. Their needles, dark and resilient, whispered secrets that the gentler trees of the forest had never known, tales of blizzards and silent stars, of peaks that touched the heavens. Elara took a deep breath, the chill invigorating her lungs, and began her ascent. The path, initially a faint deer trail, soon dissolved into a series of broken scree slopes and sheer rock faces. Her hands, calloused from her journey through the forest, found purchase on rough edges, her feet seeking firm ground amidst loose stones. The backpack felt lighter, perhaps due to the profound sense of purpose that now filled her, or perhaps because the Ethelwood's gifts truly did lighten her burden in ways she couldn't yet fully comprehend. As she climbed higher, the world below unfurled like a vast green and brown cloak. The Ethelwood, a distant, shimmering emerald sea, receded into the horizon. Above, the mountains loomed, their craggy summits piercing a sky that deepened from azure to an almost violet hue. Strange hardy flowers, their petals like chips of stained glass, bloomed in defiant bursts from rocky crevices, azure bells, crimson starbursts, and pale ghostly blossoms that seemed to absorb the twilight glow. The sun began its slow descent, painting the western faces of the peaks in fiery oranges and golds. Elara knew she couldn't climb through the night on these unfamiliar, treacherous slopes. She sought shelter, finding a shallow overhang carved into the rock by millennia of wind and ice. As the last sliver of sun dipped below the world, plunging the mountains into a profound, starry darkness, a cold wind began to howl, carrying with it the scent of distant snow. She huddled deeper into her makeshift shelter, drawing her cloak tighter. The moon, her beacon, was now a brilliant silver orb, suspended directly above the highest peaks, illuminating the jagged silhouettes against the velvet sky. Its light, however, was not enough to banish the chill that seeped into her bones. Doubt, a creeping shadow, began to stir at the edges of her resolve. The mountains were vast, unforgiving, and silent in a way the forest never was. Here, there were no comforting whispers, no rustling leaves, only the endless groan of the wind and the unsettling creak of shifting ice. As the cold intensified, threatening to numb her spirit as much as her body, Elara remembered the gay thorn of steadfastness from the ironbark tree. She reached into her pouch, her fingers finding the small, polished splinter of wood. It felt cool and smooth against her skin, yet within it, she sensed an unbreakable core. Holding it, she focused not on the chill, but on the unwavering strength of the ironbark, on its refusal to bend even in the fiercest storms. A warmth, subtle at first, then blossoming like a quiet fire, spread from her hand through her limbs, chasing away the shivers. It wasn't a physical warmth, but a deep inner resilience, a clarity of purpose that pushed aside the encroaching doubt. She was here, she would continue. The mountain could test her, but it would not break her. The next morning, Elara woke with the first grey light, her spirit renewed, her body aching but ready. The climb continued, steadily upwards, through increasingly sparse vegetation. The air grew thinner, the silence more profound. She passed crystalline streams that glittered like spun moonbeams, their waters so cold they took her breath away. Small, nimble creatures, mountain goats with spiral horns, and iridescent stone-scaled lizards, watched her with ancient, unblinking eyes from rocky ledges. Around midday, as she navigated a particularly treacherous stretch of narrow ledge overlooking a dizzying chasm, a dense, swirling mist ascended without warning. It rose from the depths below, thick and opaque, swallowing the world in an instant. The path vanished. The reassuring rock face beside her blurred into an indistinct grey, and the chasm seemed to yawn even wider, its unseen depths whispering tempting promises of oblivion. Panic, sharp and sudden, pricked at her. She couldn't see a foot in front of her, and the wind, now carrying damp tendrils of mist, seemed to mock her with disorienting gusts. This was a test not of strength, but of perception. She remembered the eye dewdrop of clariting from the whisper willow. Reaching into her pouch again, her fingers closed around the small, cool drop of solidified dew. It hummed faintly with a pure, quiet energy. Holding it to her forehead, Elara closed her eyes and focused on the essence of clarity. She didn't seek to dispel the mist, but to seek through it, to perceive the truth beneath the illusion. When she opened her eyes, the mist was still there, thick as ever, but something had shifted. It was as if a veil had been lifted within her mind. She could discern subtle differences in the texture of the rock, the faintest outline of the path, the direction of the wind's true push rather than its disorienting swirls. The dewdrop didn't give her magical sight, but it sharpened her senses, cleared the fog from her thoughts, allowing her to make precise, careful steps. Each footfall was deliberate, each handhold certain, guided by an inner compass that the mist could not obscure. Slowly, painstakingly, she navigated the perilous ledge, emerging an hour later into a clearing, where the mist thinned and broke, revealing the stark, beautiful landscape once more. She breathed a sigh of relief, the dewdrop now feeling warm and vibrant in her hand, its purpose fulfilled. As she ascended past the tree line, the mountains transformed. Pines gave way to scattered, gnarled junipers, then to bare rock and patches of clinging snow. The air grew brittle with cold, carrying the faint metallic scent of minerals. The silence here was different, not empty, but filled with the vast ancient breath of the peaks themselves. Elara felt a profound sense of isolation, yet also an exhilarating connection to something immense and timeless. She noticed strange rock formations, unlike anything she'd seen before. Some were smooth and polished, like colossal, gray-blue pearls. Others were jagged spires that seemed to hum with a low, resonant frequency when she pressed her ear against them. And scattered amongst them, glittering like fallen stars, were veins of crystalline rock that pulsed with a soft internal light, silver, sapphire, and amethyst. These were the star veins. Legends whispered of them in the Ethelwood, claiming they were the solidified tears of ancient mountains, shed in joy or sorrow. One afternoon, as Elara rounded a towering buttress of black rock, she heard a sound that chilled her to the bone, a low, mournful keening carried on the wind. It was a sound of deep, profound sorrow, echoing through the desolate landscape. Following it, she discovered a small, cavernous opening in the rock face, from which the cries emanated. Hesitantly, she peered inside. The cavern was dark, cold, and smelled faintly of earth and old magic. In its center lay a creature unlike any she had ever seen. It was roughly the size of a large fox, with fur the color of twilight snow and large, luminous eyes that glowed with a faint internal blue light. But its most striking feature was its wings, not feathered, but composed of delicate, crystalline shards, like frozen moonlight. One of these wings was bent at an unnatural angle, clearly broken, and the creature whimpered softly, its luminous eyes filled with pain and fear. It was a sky mew, a rare and reclusive creature said to nest only on the highest, most inaccessible peaks, living on the energy of starlight and pure mountain air. Its song, when happy, was said to be the most beautiful sound in all the realms, capable of mending broken hearts. But this sky mew's song was one of agony. Elara's heart went out to it. Despite the creature's sharp claws and the wild look in its eyes, she saw only suffering. This was a moment that called for compassion. She approached slowly, speaking in a soft, soothing voice, the same gentle tones she used to calm frightened forest creatures. "Easy, little one," she murmured, extending an open, empty hand. "I mean you no harm. I just want to help." The sky mew flinched, its crystalline wings twitching, but it didn't flee. Its luminous eyes watched her, suspicion warring with desperate hope. Elara sat down a respectful distance away, allowing the creature to grow accustomed to her presence. She remembered the easy song of renewal from the luminous bloom. She didn't know if it could heal a broken wing, but she knew it could bring comfort, mend spirits, and foster growth. She took a deep breath and began to hum, a soft, melodic tune that resonated with the gentle, growing energy of the bloom. It was a simple, wordless melody, but it carried the essence of life's endless cycle, of growth from decay, of light from darkness. As the song filled the cavern, the air seemed to shimmer, and the faint internal light of the star veins in the cavern walls pulsed more brightly. The sky mew at first tensed, its ears flattened. But as Elara continued, its whimpers slowly subsided. Its luminous eyes softened, fixating on Elara. A strange, almost imperceptible warmth began to spread through the cavern, not physical heat, but a feeling of gentle restoration. The wounded wing, still bent, seemed to glow with a faint inner light mirroring the star veins. Elara sang for a long time, until her throat was dry, and her voice a mere whisper. When she finished, the sky mew nudged closer, its head brushing gently against her knee. It looked up at her, its eyes filled not with fear, but with a profound gratitude. Then, with a soft cry that was no longer mournful but tinged with a delicate, ringing beauty, it slowly, carefully, unfolded its broken wing. The shards of crystal realigned, knitting themselves back together with a faint musical chime. The bends smoothed, the breaks vanished, leaving the wing whole and shimmering as if it had never been injured. The sky mew chirped joyfully, a sound like tiny wind chimes, and rubbed its head against Elara's leg once more before leaping into the air. It circled the cavern once, its repaired wings catching the faint light, then darted out into the mountain air, its song echoing behind it, a beacon of pure joy. Elara watched it go, a warmth spreading through her chest that had nothing to do with the thorn of steadfastness. The song of renewal had not only healed the sky mew, but it had also renewed something within her, strengthening her belief in the inherent goodness and interconnectedness of all living things, even in the harshest of lands. She continued her climb, her spirit buoyant. The landscape grew starker still, the air thin and biting. Snow became a constant companion, dusting the rocks and filling the hollows. Yet, the mountains now felt less hostile, more simply, grand. She was a tiny speck in their vastness, but she was a speck with purpose. She passed ancient ice formations, sculpted by eons of wind into fantastical shapes, colossal frozen waves, ethereal castles, and silent, watchful giants. The light here was different too, a cold, pure luminescence reflected from the snow and ice, infused with the intense blue of the upper atmosphere. Days bled into nights, each marked by the rising and setting of a sun that seemed closer, more brilliant, and a moon that dominated the sky with an almost palpable presence. Her food supplies dwindled, but her resolve, fueled by the thorn of steadfastness, remained unbroken. The dewdrop of clarity guided her through sudden blizzards and over hidden crevices. The song of renewal, she found, could also warm her own spirit when the cold threatened to seep into her bones, or soothe her aching muscles at the end of a long day. One evening, as the moon began its slow climb into the zenith, Elara reached a high plateau. It was a vast expanse of polished obsidian-like rock, dusted with crystalline snow, and surrounded by towering needle-sharp peaks that seemed to pierce the heavens themselves. The air was utterly still, the silence profound, broken only by the faint, ringing hum that seemed to emanate from the very rock beneath her feet. In the center of this plateau, rising majestically against the backdrop of the indigo sky, was a structure that made Elara catch her breath. It was a colossal spire of gleaming white stone, impossibly tall, tapered and elegant, spiraling upwards like a petrified beam of moonlight. Its surface was not smooth, but etched with intricate swirling patterns that seemed to shift and glow with an internal pearlescent light. This was the moon spire, the legends said, the very pinnacle of the world mountain, the threshold to the moon's ethereal realm. But it was not the spire itself that truly held her gaze. At its base, nestled in a wide circular plaza of the same luminous white stone, was a vast, shimmering pool. Its surface was perfectly still, reflecting the entirety of the night sky, every star, every galaxy, and most importantly, the enormous radiant moon directly above. The pool wasn't just reflecting, it seemed to contain the heavens, a liquid mirror of impossible depth. And standing beside this pool, bathed in the ethereal glow of the moon spire and the reflected starlight, was a figure. Tall and slender, cloaked in robes the color of deep night, its form was indistinct, shimmering at the edges like heat haze. It was impossible to tell if it was man or woman, old or young, for its features were veiled in shadow and light. Yet Elara felt an undeniable presence, a profound ancient power emanating from it. It was waiting. Elara stood at the edge of the plateau, the wind tugging at her cloak, her heart pounding with a mix of awe, exhaustion, and triumphant anticipation. She had reached the moon spire. The climb had been long, arduous, and filled with challenges, but the gifts of the Athelwood had proven true, and her own courage and compassion had carried her through. The moon, now directly overhead, poured its silver light down upon the spire and the shimmering pool, creating a spectacle of breathtaking beauty. The figure by the pool remained motionless, a silent sentinel. Elara knew, with a certainty that resonated deep within her soul, that her journey was not yet over. This was not the end, but a new beginning. The true revelation, the purpose of the moon's summons, lay just ahead, beyond the silent guardian and the shimmering pool. She took a final fortifying breath and stepped onto the obsidian plateau, her gaze fixed on the moon spire and the waiting figure. She took a final fortifying breath and stepped onto the obsidian plateau, her gaze fixed on the moon spire and the waiting figure. The obsidian surface beneath her feet was cool, smooth as polished glass, reflecting the celestial dance above. Stars, nebulae, and the swirling aurora seemed to gather at her very steps, creating the illusion of walking on a sky mirror. The air, though thin, hummed with a profound energy, a silent song that resonated deep within her bones. The figure, a silent sentinel, stood perfectly still by the shimmering pool. As Elara drew closer, she saw that it was not made of flesh and bone, but woven from the very fabric of moonlight itself. Its form was tall and slender, draped in robes of deepest indigo that seemed to absorb and refract the light, making it shift and ripple like liquid shadow. Its face was a smooth, featureless oval of opalescent light, with two luminous orbs for eyes that held the wisdom of ages. It was neither male nor female, but an embodiment of pure, ancient presence, a lunar sentinel. The sentinel did not move, did not speak, yet Elara felt its gaze, a gentle probe into the depths of her soul, seeking not judgment but understanding. There was no fear, only an immense sense of awe and a quiet certainty that this encounter was meant to be. The shimmering pool before it pulsed with a soft inner light, its surface like polished quicksilver, reflecting the moon spire's ascent into the heavens. It was not water, Elara realized, but solidified starlight, a liquid gateway. As she reached the edge of the pool, the sentinel slowly, gracefully, extended a hand of pure moonlight, and gestured towards the shimmering surface. Its movement was deliberate, unhurried, imbued with ancient grace. The luminous orbs that were its eyes seemed to soften, offering a silent invitation. Elara looked into the pool. It was impossibly deep, yet also clear, revealing a swirling vortex of colors that defied earthly description. Purples, silvers, emeralds, and blues, all interwoven with threads of pure, unblemished white. She felt a profound pull, a whisper that seemed to come from the heart of the moon itself, urging her forward. This was not a test of strength but of trust. With another steadying breath, Elara stepped into the pool. The liquid starlight was not cold, nor warm, but felt like slipping into a dream. It enveloped her, not with the weight of water, but with a buoyant, gentle embrace. She didn't sink. Instead, she was lifted, suspended in the shimmering expanse. The world outside, the obsidian plateau, the lunar sentinel, the distant stars, faded, dissolving into the swirling light. She was no longer on the plateau, but within the moon spire itself. The interior was not carved stone, but a living, breathing cathedral of light and sound. Walls of shimmering crystal rose around her, pulsing with a soft internal luminescence. Pathways of solidified stardust spiraled upwards, leading deeper into the heart of the spire. The air was filled with a gentle hum, like a million tiny bells chiming in perfect harmony, a symphony of cosmic whispers. Elara began to ascend, not by walking, but by being gently drawn upwards along the luminous paths. Each chamber she passed through was a new marvel. One chamber was a garden of crystalline flora, where blossoms of starlight unfurled in silent explosions of color, their petals whispering ancient secrets. Another was a vast open space where nebulae swirled, miniature galaxies contained within the spire's heart, each star a tiny spark of life. She saw visions ripple across the walls, echoes of the moon's influence on the world below, the gentle ebb and flow of tides, the silent growth of ancient forests, the quiet wonder in a child's dreaming eyes. She felt the moon's presence growing stronger with every upward turn, a profound and gentle consciousness that touched her mind not with words, but with feelings, kindness, wisdom, an ancient sorrow, and an enduring hope. There were no physical obstacles, no monsters to fight, but subtle internal shifts. Doubts that had lingered in her heart, moments of self-consciousness, worries about her place in the world, seemed to shimmer and dissolve in the pure light, replaced by a quiet confidence, a sense of belonging. The journey through the moon spire was a journey of purification, shedding the small shadows that clung to her spirit. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, and yet no time at all, Elara reached the pinnacle chamber. It was vast, circular, and open to the cosmic expanse above, yet protected by an invisible, shimmering dome. Here, the hum was a resonant chord that vibrated through her entire being, calming and invigorating all at once. At the very center of the chamber, suspended in the air, was the heart of the moon spire. It was a pulsating orb of pure liquid moonlight, larger than Elara herself, radiating an ethereal glow that filled the entire space. Within its depths, she could see shimmering motes of light, like countless tiny souls, dancing in an eternal ballet. This was the true revelation, the purpose of her summons. As Elara gazed at it, the orb of moonlight pulsed, and a gentle, voiceless thought filled her mind, clear as a bell. It was the moon's voice, a consciousness ancient beyond imagining. Welcome, Elara, child of wonder. You have journeyed far, not just across lands, but through the landscape of your own heart. Elara felt no surprise that the moon could communicate with her. It felt utterly natural. She waited, her heart thrumming with anticipation. For ages, I have watched the world below. I am the silent witness, the weaver of dreams, the guardian of the night's gentle mysteries. My light guides the tides, nurtures the hidden growth, and whispers inspiration into the sleeping minds of your kind. A faint sorrow touched the moon's voice, a feeling rather than a sound. But the world changes. The veil between the seen and the unseen grows thicker. The hum of magic, once vibrant and constant, dims. The hearts of many grow heavy, burdened by the loud clamor of the day, forgetting the quiet magic that breathes life into their nights, and into their very souls. Wonder, curiosity, the simple joy of a starlit sky, these are fading. Elara understood. Anni wundi, en spirit. She had felt it too, that subtle shift, that sense of something precious slipping away. He sought a connection, a bridge between my silent vigil and the waking world. I needed a spirit pure enough, a heart open enough, to carry my whisper, to remind humanity of the magic that still exists, that always exists, just beyond the edge of their perception. The orb pulsed, and a gentle warmth spread through Elara, emanating from her chest. He chose you, Elara. Your journey from the whispered legends to the arduous climb was a test of your courage to seek, your resilience to endure, and your kindness to understand. You have passed, not with grand feats of power, but with the unwavering light of your spirit. A single shimmering mote of light detached itself from the pulsating orb and drifted slowly towards Elara. It was tiny, no bigger than a firefly, yet it held the brilliance of 1,000 stars. It floated before her, radiating a gentle, inviting glow. This is my gift, my blessing. It is not power to wield nor a command to follow, but a fragment of my essence, a silent hum that will resonate within your heart. It will sharpen your perception, deepen your empathy, and amplify your own innate capacity for wonder. The shimmering mote gently touched Elara's chest, directly over her heart. It didn't burn, but rather melted into her, dissolving into a profound warmth that spread through every fiber of her being. She felt a deep, peaceful connection to the moon, to the stars, to the very earth below. It was as if a dormant part of her soul had awakened, humming with a quiet, joyful song. She felt whole, complete, and filled with a purpose that felt as natural as breathing. She was a moon-touched dreamer. The moon's voice, now infused with a sense of profound peace, settled in her mind one last time. Go forth, Elara. Live with open eyes and an open heart. The journey never truly ends, but only transforms. The magic is within you now, and through you, it will echo in the world. The light in the pinnacle chamber softened, gently receding. Elara felt herself being cradled, turned, and then, with the same gentle buoyancy, she began to descend. The crystalline gardens, the swirling nebulae, the visions of the world below, all passed by in reverse, like a beautiful silent film. She felt no sadness at leaving, only a profound sense of gratitude and a quiet joy. She emerged from the liquid starlight pool on the obsidian plateau. Andia. The lunar sentinel was gone, dissolved back into the shimmering tapestry of moonlight that draped the spire. The stars above were beginning to fade, painting the eastern sky with the first blush of dawn. The moon, her guiding light, hung low, a silver disk against the deepening indigo, winking at her almost imperceptibly. Elara took a deep breath. The air still carried that profound energy, but now it felt familiar, like an old friend. She turned and began the long journey back down the winding path, her steps light, her heart full. The world around her was slowly waking up, and she saw it with new eyes. The ancient trees seemed to whisper secrets she could almost understand. The dew on the leaves glittered like scattered jewels, and the distant melody of a waking bird sounded like a symphony. She walked until the first rays of the sun warmed her face, until the path led her back to the familiar clearing, and then, miraculously, back to her own little cottage. She slipped through the door, climbed into her bed and closed her eyes. When Elara awoke, the sun was streaming through her window, painting golden stripes across her quilt. Everything looked the same: her cozy room, her well-worn books, the small pressed flower on her bedside table. Yet everything felt different. The air tasted sweeter, the colors were brighter, and a gentle hum resonated within her chest, a quiet echo of the moon's song. She looked out her window. The world was alive with a vibrant energy she had never truly noticed before. She saw the intricate patterns on a spider's web, heard the busy chatter of unseen insects, and felt the ancient strength of the oak tree in her garden. The magic wasn't hidden. It was everywhere, interwoven into the very fabric of life, simply waiting for someone to truly see it. Elara smiled. Her journey to the moonspire had not given her a wand or a spellbook, but something far more profound, a renewed sense of wonder, a deeper connection to the world, and the quiet understanding that the greatest magic lay not in grand gestures, but in the gentle, everyday beauty that surrounded them all. She was Elara, the moon-touched dreamer, and her purpose was to live with that light, to nurture it, and to share its quiet glow with the world. One whispered tale, one hopeful glance, one dreaming heart at a time. And as she drifted off to sleep that night, a soft silver light seemed to emanate from her, bathing her room in a gentle, peaceful glow, a quiet promise of magic yet to unfold.